Well, good evening, everyone. It is Thursday evening here, about 6 o'clock in the evening. Did want to get on and do a video to look at the potential, kind of how the forecast is setting up for tomorrow. So that'll be Friday afternoon into the evening hours, and we have a pretty big risk area out for tomorrow. This has been an extremely active June here in the Southern Plains. Typically, you see a lot of the severe weather by this time of year migrating much further north up into the northern high plains, the Wyoming, Colorado, Dakotas, that type of an area. And while there has been some severe weather there, we're still seeing these outbreaks of severe weather across the southern plains. So, do you want to take a look at the forecast, what the threat areas are for tomorrow, and kind of look at exactly how that may evolve? So, first thing I did want to look at here is current satellite and what we can see going on across the United States here. A couple things you can notice: we do have this area of spin here across kind of the eastern seaboard. Then we also have this other area of spin here kind of coming into California. Now, this is going to play a role in tomorrow's severe weather. And then, kind of right here in the middle of the country, we have a little bit of this kind of high pressure, this ridge that's kind of built in across northern Mexico and then parts of Texas as well. So, this has given way to some really extreme early summer heat across Mexico and parts of Texas as well. And we can see kind of these clouds that continue to kind of race up from the Pacific, and then they kind of come over this ridge and then back down. And so you can kind of see storms and clouds kind of moving in this similar pattern. And so that is what we're going to have at play for us tomorrow, and going to be a trigger for some of that severe weather. Now, when we look specifically at the severe weather threat tomorrow, this is the day two outlook. So today's midday outlook from the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow. And so what we can see is we do have a 3 out of 5 enhanced risk here across western Nebraska, extreme kind of southwest South Dakota, and then parts of eastern Wyoming here. So this is a 3 out of 5 risk. We also have a large 2 out of 5 slight risk that really covers the same area all the way across Kansas, eastern Colorado, and then down into the Oklahoma and Texas panhandle. So pretty wide central US severe weather threat, and then marginal really all the way from the Dakotas and Montana all the way down to the Mexico border here. So, going to be a pretty wide area of severe storms tomorrow that we'll have to watch for. Now, when we look at the specific threats, we do have two different areas of heightened tornado threat up here in the enhanced, specifically around Wyoming, maybe some of Nebraska, and then again in the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. Both of these are 5% risks. So again, not a tornado outbreak expected, but certainly could see a couple significant tornadoes with any storms that can kind of be in the right environment and stay a little bit isolated. And a 5% is what we had over the panhandle in Texas yesterday. And you certainly might have seen the death and destruction that was caused in Matador, Texas, from that very significant tornado that occurred yesterday evening. So could have some of those same areas be under the gun tomorrow across the Texas panhandle. Also have a hail risk across this area, especially up in Wyoming, but certainly down all the way into the Texas panhandle as well. And then also a significant wind threat as well, setting up for tomorrow. So when we look at the actual environment, I'm going to focus on the southern plains and the Texas and Oklahoma panhandle. And so what we see here is that we do have significant moisture that's in place. This has really been the story for so much of 2023, is that we just continue to have these high dew points all the way up into the higher terrain of even the Texas, Oklahoma panhandle, up into Colorado. Dew points, this is showing for tomorrow evening, almost 70-degree dew points up in the panhandle, mid to upper 60s all the way up into southeastern Colorado. That's some pretty significant moisture for these parts of the country. So more than enough moisture is going to be present. Now, when we look at, again, some of the models and what we look for, some of those ingredients that we look for is, first, what's that flow way up in the atmosphere? Is there enough of that wind shear, that changing wind direction with height, to get those severe thunderstorms? So this is showing tomorrow evening. And what we can see is that these pink and purple colors, this is enhanced flow that's going to be kind of coming over that ridge right into the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma tomorrow, kind of late afternoon and into the evening hours. So this is likely going to set off and be a triggering event for some of those severe storms tomorrow. So we've got that wind speed with height up near that jet stream level. That's what this 500 millibar map is showing. Now, when we look just above the surface of the ground, what we call that low level jet, we can see that it's not overly intense, but it is coming out of the southeast here. And, anywhere from, let's see here, kind of across the panhandles of Oklahoma, almost 40 knots of a low level jet, 30 knots across the northern panhandle. This is likely being enhanced by a storm here, but certainly we do have a little bit of a pickup of that low level jet, and that can be important to see those storms really start to rotate. So we are going to have wind shear that's present tomorrow. We have the moisture that's in place, and then certainly on the instability side, we're really not going to have any issue with having that instability, and that's kind of been the story of the year so far. This looks at our surface-based instability, or that cape, and we can see that we're talking over 3,000, maybe 4,000 joules per kilogram, more than enough for these storms to really feed off and get the atmosphere boiling. So again, really all the ingredients for severe weather are going to be in place tomorrow. That's why we do have a risk of certainly some significant storms. When we look at the simulated radar reflectivity here, looking into tomorrow, this would be about 4 p.m. This is a North American model here showing a couple different storms kind of igniting over far eastern New Mexico and another storm here in far southeast Colorado. As we move forward in time, we're going to see that those storms do gradually move east-southeast, and this would be modeled about 6 p.m. on Friday evening. We've got a pretty significant supercell, could have all severe hazards threat here across southeast Colorado, Oklahoma, and Texas Panhandle. We have another storm that pops up around Amarillo here in the northern Panhandle, and then a couple more storms down here a little bit west of the Lubbock area. And as we move forward with time, they all kind of move off to the southeast, and certainly could have some pretty significant severe weather hazards with these storms, especially if they can stay isolated like this. If they're not next to one another, they're kind of isolated and they can feed off of this environment. We certainly could see the threat for large hail and even a couple tornadoes as well. So definitely does look like tomorrow could unfortunately be another severe weather day for some of the areas that have really seen a lot of those severe storms over the last really much of this springtime, but especially over the month of June. So if you're in any of these areas, certainly stay weather aware tomorrow. We could see some of these storms stay together in the overnight hours and make it into North Texas. So do want to pay attention to that. Probably not as much of a significant severe weather threat, maybe some wind and rain, probably not much hail or anything, not a tornado threat by that time, but certainly could be a continued active stretch of severe weather, even though we're getting into late June now. So hope everybody has a good rest of your Thursday evening and a good Friday and start to the weekend here tomorrow. I'll see you back for the next video.